Alright, I'm going to do an update video out here on this beautiful silver '05, '06, somewhere around there, F350. So this one had a couple of interesting issues. It drove actually really good. It had good power, good turbo response, but it had a real weird intermittent no start hot. Now it kind of wanted to fire up, struggling, when it was hot to fire up, but then I would leave it for a few minutes and then it would be like a really, really long crank, and I wasn't able to achieve high pressure oil. So generally, there's only a few spots that can happen. One of them being right down there in the valley. I should have my flashlight here. There we go, right down there underneath the turbo and all that stuff. That's the high pressure oil pump, and you can see kind of that little block to the left there. That's the feed tube that supplies high pressure oil to the injectors via this common rail, you could call it. So we got the EGR out of the way, which is a really important thing to do. It looked to me like someone had replaced the EGR or something like that, and not done too horrible of a job. It doesn't look like it's failed. It doesn't look like the carbon is there, but on a good hot day, these things cause problems. There's no doubt about it. So we'll get the delete on that. Now, the pump, see, I can tell right off the hop that's one of those cheap Chinese kits. The Ford kit, we can tell it's a little bit of a different color, and it just has a little bit of a different setup here as far as where it seals into the pump. Now, I had a lot of troubles getting this off. It was these Chinese kits, they use a hex bit where generally we see a T45, and where it was bolted down here, these I just had it was all like it was kind of cocked over funny. So there's a good chance that leak could have been coming to where this connects to the feed pipe. I didn't really see it there, but I was hearing it definitely kind of resonating over on the other side. So like when I put the air to this one, I don't hear anything. And even when I'll turn the pump, give it a couple of different positions. So I'm not suspecting a bad pump. I think this pump is okay. I definitely want to get a better system here so we can make our adjustments. See, I think that they've got it just a little bit too far out of whack, and it just wasn't making a good seal. This O-ring came out all kind of flat and funny looking, like it wasn't really sitting in the groove there. But nonetheless, I wanted to have a look underneath at the injection system and the standpipes and the dummy plugs. So again, I don't see any problems with these. I don't see any rip seals or anything like that. So I think we're gonna reuse those. Those will be okay. They look like they're the updated kind. They've got the 12mm head on it. But these nipple cups, we call them, are like really loose and flimsy. And I see guys try to rebuild these all the time with the cheap kits. And those seals in there, they work for a little while and then they just leak everywhere. So I popped one of these out and had a look at it, and same thing, the seal was really flat and hard. So I'm going to grab another couple of rails I'd have off of a good stock Ford motor that was working good, and we're gonna put those in. See, there is a real good aftermarket set that we use, and they're about $500, and they give you a slightly bigger nipple here that seats inside those injectors. Now looking at these injectors and the valve cover gasket, that all looks aftermarket. I can't really attest to it. Now I've seen these injectors leak too, and that's a definite possibility. I did check the top O-rings where these seal to, and they don't look all that horribly bad. I don't see any of them that are ripped or anything like that. But at this point in time, I think it's going to be a good idea just to replace this rail, just to get it back together. We'll put the pump back in with that proper Ford kit, and being that we had no fuel pressure, which, you know, is definitely concerning, like I got 0. And I can see that it's filling it, but the little spring in there, I believe, is just bypassing it for whatever reason. Now, the other concern is with this tank, which could end up being a problem. So, this is going to be a tough one to see. I don't think I'll be able to... You can see that that tank's just hanging there. And there's a vent that was kind of broke off, and I had another one kicking around, so I put that in. So we're going to jack that tank back up here while I'm waiting for parts, get that secured. You can see all of our brakes and front end work all worked out real good. We got some grease into the U-joints. They've been done at one point in time, but we'd already discussed the ball joints have a little bit of wear on them, but I think they'll hold up all right. You can see there was definitely a lot of scoring and damage to that rotor there. The ABS side here, that we're luckily enough able to get it out. So we've got nice new pads on there. We've got the new stabilizer shock in. And as bad as this looks, you know, for someone experienced, it's really not all that horrible to put all back together. So as soon as I get that pump and EGR delete, we're gonna drop that in, drop on, like I said, that other rail, get it started, put the proper oil filter in. Now we could talk about that real quick here too. These cap and so got a real garbage seal on the bottom here, which is just, it doesn't cut it. You can see this one's already all kind of warped and whatnot, so it just allows the oil just to spew out, and it doesn't even really make it through the filter. Like, that filter is really a lot cleaner than it should be. It's just not really catching anything, where the factory one uses a shorter cap and the filter's actually a little bit smaller, and it just pushes down just the way it needs to, and it really seals that oil up. Now, when I see these caps, I usually end up seeing funny high pressure leak problems. Why? Well, because it's not actually filtering the oil. And it's like they purposely build these things to make these engines fail. It drives me nuts, this aftermarket crap. And like I said, rebuilding these rails, I don't ever like to touch these rails unless I use a real high quality kit that's going to seal them up, and I torque everything properly. It comes with all the Ford stuff. A lot of it will come with new bolts and hardware, and that kit we used was just not good. So yeah, no big deal anyways. We're gonna power on through and get this thing as good as we can, and if it still has issues or troubles, at least we know we don't have to go back down into the center. And if for some odd reason you ever do, if there's a pump failure, which I generally never see, then you can access it very easily with the EGR removed. It just really opens up the whole valley of the motor and makes this a serviceable unit. But yeah, as far as it goes, I'm going to leave that valve cover on for now. That one's a little bit more involved to take off, and I don't want to have to bill you for the time for it. So far so good. Yeah, that belt's on its way too. We'll get that belt changed up, and I think we'll get some good results out of it. I'm really thinking that we're just having some issues with a couple of these guys here. They're probably not sealing up, but it was a really, really loud leak. So I'm thinking at least once I get it running again, and if that's the case, that I hear the leak maybe happening a little bit more prominently on this side, then I'll know to go after this side, change out the rail, then we should be fine. Unfortunately, once I get this in, until I pressure it up and drive it a little bit to work the air out, I won't be able to find a leak. It'll just piss out through all these things, just because it requires that oil to push down on the seal. But enough of that technical crap. Nobody really cares about that. They just want their stuff to work good and never let them down, and that's what I'm going to try and do.